Okay, so welcome to our weekly, not weekly, bi-weekly webinar for Certified Fire Protection Specialist Exam Preparation. I'm your instructor. My name is Marvin, and our topic for tonight is about building services and fire prevention. Let us start. So our topic is building services and fire prevention practices. Okay. So in this module, specific building services and the role in fire prevention and control, emergency and standby power supplies, heating system and appliance, and ventilation of commercial cooking operation. We will also discuss the care and maintenance best practices and precautions in constructions and demolitions. Okay, so let us hear Mr. Bruce Clark, a certified fire protection specialist, global technical integration group manager, and he will share his insights and experience related to fire prevention practices and building services. And if you completed this module, you should be able to recall the topics related to section 10 and 11 of your fire protection handbook. We will define what is good housekeeping, the good housekeeping practice for building care and maintenance, and locate guidelines for emergency and standby power supply system using NFPA code and standards. Okay. Also summarize the components involved in heating system and the potential fire. Summarize ventilation and components of ventilation. The list of risks associated with ventilation system, operation and component design, including system maintenance, and determine the safety of the site during construction, alteration, and demolition. So this is all about section 10 and 11 of your fire protection handbook. And we will not cover those who are not expecting to come out in your exam. So let us discuss first the fire prevention, housekeeping basics, and Mr. Bruce, the risk property and risk engineer, will discuss the impact of poor housekeeping. So guys, the NPA is not just about fire safety. In general, of course, fire safety, but it's all about life safety. So including sometimes also the property destruction. Anyway, let us hear a video from Mr. Bruce.
Housekeeping is a big deal for us because it causes a lot of fires and might be a surprise, but a lot of customers don't see the hazards associated with housekeeping. They might see trash on the floor and realize that's a housekeeping issue, but dust buildups, housekeeping issue, combustible materials collecting in closets and areas, and management of the trash itself is our housekeeping issue. So when we walk through properties, we look at all those and try to consult our customers on better practices around keeping the places cleaner and safer. We've had a lot of fires start from housekeeping issues over the years. I've worked on a lot of construction projects where with a lot more near misses than full misses, but there's been quite a few cases where fires are the result of poor housekeeping. Just watch the news and look at how many news stories come up about hot work that was started, and they'll typically or inevitably relate that to poor housekeeping. Again, a spark's not going to cause a fire if it can't find something to burn. And usually what it finds is issues related to housekeeping, along with poor pre-planning of that hot work event. Housekeeping.
So the section 11, chapter 2 of your fire protection mentioned to define the good housekeeping, an operation leadership should inspect the plant or facility and let us determine the following. Okay. Is the present level of housekeeping are acceptable? So this is the primary questions we have to ask. Are the appropriate tools provided for general plant cleanup are available for emergency cleanup also? So the tools availability for normal and emergency cleanup operation. Are adequate storage areas provided for both incoming raw materials and outgoing enough so it will not obstruct, especially your means of egress? Do management office reflect the good housekeeping required of the facility area? Is there any adequate waste receptacle or trash bin? Okay. So now in this exercises, the housekeeping in terms of fire prevention is about sense of cleanliness and orderliness, as well as the repair and maintenance. If we have a good housekeeping in place, it will also minimize the potential of fire spread. It will also preserve their escape paths because there's no obstruction and provide an easy accessible area to fight the fire. And there are four items in this picture violating good housekeeping. No? So we will just put it back where it is belong. Okay. So one of that, okay, we need to put the trash, no, the trash bin on where it is below. Okay. Another is your let's say this equipment, no, lifting equipment should also be in place. The vehicle, okay, the forklift, this also the boxes should be on the correct, so if you see correct location. And that's it, no? If you see guys, there are also markings on the floor, no? So it actually reflects what we call lean management, no? So lean management, we try not just to remove unnecessary material, but we want also to sort things and make it order and make it available where it is stored or be located. So why we need to do that? In order to easily locate. Because you know guys, looking for things might takes time and might also waste your time. So everything, if everything are easily located, apart from uh, it avoids the obstruction, unnecessary obstruction, well-maintained facility, avoid potential fire spread. It will also help us to make our operation efficient. Okay? And let us further define the building maintenance for and the basic requirements for good housekeeping. So if you see earlier, it's about proper layout and equipment, correct materials handling and storage, cleanliness, and order. If you adhere to these basic requirements, basically it will reduce the potential spread of fire. So let us discuss the ducts, dust and lint, and floor. Ducts. The duct system and other air moving equipment are conduit through which the substance such as grease, the dust and other microorganisms condense and collect. Periodic cleaning and inspection, the proper pickup and carrying velocity, and the frequent replacement are very simple and effective to do because it will also reduce the potential fire hazard. So another concern in the building care maintenance is your dust and lints. Do you know that it takes about 3 mm of dust or lint to create a fire or explosion hazard? The flash fire can occur when there is as little as zero point 0.8 mm of fine divided dust from wood, food products, paper, and the like. Therefore, it is essential that facilities remove combustible dust and lint accumulation from the walls, the ceiling, and expose structural member. And lastly, let's talk about the floors. General care, the treatment, cleaning, and refinishing our floor can present a fire hazard if flammable solvent or finishes are used or if the combustible residue are produced. In general, the cleaning solvents with plus point, remember this guys because we have a quiz, cleaning solvents below the plus points below the room temperature are very dangerous to use to clean the floor. Again, your cleaning solvents with flash points below the room temperature are too dangerous to use to clean the floor. So what is the meaning of flash point? So the flash point is simply temperature at which a combustible liquid produce sufficient vapor for the ignition to occur. And one option is a floor cleaning system does not use flammable solvents. So before you use any cleaning solvents or agents, check the label. If the plus points below, no? So again, as what we mentioned, below room temperature, too dangerous to use because it might cause vapor for ignition to occur. Okay, remember that? And in this module, we will discuss the following: standby power, ventilation, construction, and heating system. So let us discuss first the component of emergency and the standby power supply. And we have some video, guys.
Based on a building's occupancy, life safety and building codes, as well as some standards, may require standby or emergency power. Section 20 of the FPH mentions the need for these power systems in occupancies such as high-rise buildings and healthcare facilities as required by NFPA 101 Life Safety Code, and NFPA 5000, Building Construction and Safety Code. Once it has been determined that a specific occupancy requires a standby or emergency power supply, NFPA 70, National Electrical Code, and NFPA 110, Standard for Emergency and Standby Power Systems, tell us how to meet that requirement. NFPA 70, or the NEC, explains situations in the identified occupancy when emergency or standby power might be needed and provides the engineering parameters you need to follow for those power supply systems. NFPA 110 provides the specifications for how that system needs to be built, where one is required. NFPA 99, Standard for Healthcare Facilities, provides even further details on emergency power for healthcare occupancies.
Okay, so based on the video, okay, there is, so which of the following provides specification for how standby or emergency power system need to be built where one is required. So if you will answer, okay. So for the standby emergency power, obviously, it is your NFPA. So if you want to participate, you can participate, guys. So NFPA 110, the standby for, correct, Mr. Sayed. So standard for emergency and standby power system. It provides specification for how standby or emergency power system need to be built where one is required. Okay. So next, no? Let us discuss the emergency power system components. There are three types: power source, fuel supply, and the transfer switch. Okay. And there are 5 recognized sources for emergency power supply. So the following are the potential, how can I say, source for emergency power supply. The storage battery, separate service, which is also a generator, but separate service considered, UPS, and unit equipment, and generator sets, which is, I think you're familiar, especially if you are an electrical engineer. Okay. A separate service is, take note, guys, as what I've shown you, as a source of emergency power is not an approved as an acceptable emergency power source according to NEPA 101. Even though that covered by the Fire Protection Handbook, the energy storage system may also be used as a standby or emergency power source. NEPA 855, the standard for the installation of stationary energy storage system provides the requirements for this type of system. Let us discuss the emergency power system components. Fuel supply is required to make each type of standby or emergency power system functional. The energy source for backup power are generally one of the following. If you see in your picture, the liquid petroleum products, we're also using that. Liquefied petroleum gas or LPG, natural or synthetic combustible gas, and battery. Okay, all of these actually a source of power, but if you remember also, guys, proper storage, maintenance, and handling are also required because it might also be a source of hazard. Transfer switch or automatic transfer switches are used to transfer selected loads to the emergency power supply if you're an electrical engineer, when the normal power source failed. So if there's no power, we can use the transfer switch or automatic transfer switches alternative to normal power supply. The transfer switch senses when there is a loss of normal power, and after a brief time delay, signals the transfer to the emergency power system. On restoration of the normal power supply to acceptable level, the same thing, the transfer switch may also be able to automatically transfer the load back to the permanent normal power source. So you don't need to do it manually. Again, if there is already a restoration of normal power supply within the acceptable level, okay, the transfer switch will automatically transfer the load back to the permanent normal power source. Guys, very important, no? Especially to our life safety devices system, that in case there is the trouble or an issue with the primary source of power, we can still use our life safety equipment or devices because we have an alternative source of power, especially in our pumps, in a power pump room. No? So power interruption or loss might not be an issue, okay, because we have an alternative source of power. And one of that is your automatic transfer switch to your UPS or uninterruptible power source or supply. So let us determine the role of the fire protection professional.
As a fire protection professional, you also need to consider other aspects related to standby and emergency power. Design engineers might spec a high-rise building and may need a backup power source based on the code requirements. Insurance risk assessors may need to identify situations where there is a value to the building or business that may require emergency or standby power where the code does not require such a system. Fire service professionals are often charged with determining the reliability of the normal power source for the authority having jurisdiction, or AHJ. Fire service would obtain data from the normal power provider about the number of times power has failed, whether there are power lines above or below ground, and whether these connections are subject to natural disasters. As a fire protection
So now let us discuss the ventilation and fire protection for your commercial cooking application. Okay. Okay, guys. The fire in commercial cooking equipment establishments are serious concern. Many commercial cooking operations are part of educational, healthcare, or assembly occupancy where the fire could create significant risk to life. And one of the factors that we need to consider in this fire is the spread to the ventilation equipment. For industrial cooking operation, the ventilation and fire control must be considered a major building system with several components. Each of those components must be addressed properly for the fire safety system in order to be effective. And let us see or learn about the ventilation system overview. And again, it's about the fire, potential fire in a commercial cooking establishments because it's very, very serious concern. Many commercial cooking operations are part of, as what we discussed earlier, of healthcare or any other occupancy, which could have a significant risk to life safety. For industrial cooking operation, the ventilation and fire control must be considered a major building system with several components. Okay? And again, as what we discussed earlier, those components must be addressed properly for the fire system in order to become effective. So here, we have some the components of our ventilation system in the kitchen, commercial cooking application. A grease removal device should always be maintained or clean because it might become a source of fire if there's an adequate accumulation. Another is the hood, which or where the smoke or and heat goes up. No? Fire extinguishing equipment or your kitchen suppression system uh, with nozzle, and so basically it's about type K fire, meaning liquid but normally oil-based fire, including animal fat and plant plant-based fats. Okay, auxiliary equipment in case auxiliary or extra equipment. Okay, like maintenance panel. It can be of anything: door holder, special sealing requirements, or maybe an equipment shutdown, automatic equipment shutdown during emergency, and exhaust duct system as well. Air movement system, which normally typically shut down interface with your fire alarm. In case there is a fire, because again, it can be one of the significant source of fire is due to your air movement system. Not only fire, including the smoke. So now let us also discuss the inspection, cleaning, and maintenance of ventilation system, and training of facility management and employees of those procedures. We also have some other components not be considered probably, but might be equally important to fire safety, including operating standard operating procedure or SOPs, proper inspection, proper cleaning, and maintenance of ventilation system, training of your facility management and employees of those procedure. Okay. And now there are three types of risk of fire concern associated with commercial cooking ventilation system. So one is system operation design. Number two is the system component design. And number three, your system maintenance. So let us further discuss that. So let us start from the system operation design. So five concern with the system operation design revolve around the ventilation flow, including makeup or replacement air and exhaust flow, as well as the operating control and fire interlocking system. So what is an interlock? So if you read this, the definition, it is a feature or mechanism used to prevent undesired state or function from occurring. And the most serious fire interlock failure are the ones to fail to permit the suppression system. Basically, this interlocking is used also for suppression system, and that is one of the greatest failure of your interlocking system, which need to have a proper maintenance inspection and a frequent replacement also whenever required according to your authority habit jurisdiction requirements and NEPA requirements. Again, in system operation design, one of that is the interlocking system. And this is one of the greatest fail to permit the suppression system to operate. Now let us discuss the system component design. And the various component of ventilation system must be properly positioned and designed to work together to reduce environmental concern effectively and mitigate or minimize the potential fire. Exhaust hood, fan, ducts, and your filter must be clean and kept in a proper working order. So the role of facility department or maintenance department is very important. A fire damper, so what is that? Is placed normally in a hood at the duct connection to prevent the fire from getting into the ductwork. And it is also a form of a passive fire protection system. The fire professional should consider whether the fire damper is appropriate for each particular facility. Grease extraction and control device must be placed properly and should be empty at the end of each rust period to avoid extra fuel source in case there is an event of fire. And this is how it looks like a typical uh, manually operated fire damper. Manually means there is a here this there is a holding locking device here that will melt if a certain period achieved. So automatically this shutter will goes down, so it will prevent again the spread of fire from one area to another area. Okay. So this is your typical hood, exhaust hood connected to your exhaust fan. Okay. So if you have a grease duct, okay, this is also one of the source of fire. Must be cleaned if there is a much accumulation of grease. Okay. And if you see, you need to maintain some distances uh, from the walls or need some clearance unless protected according to NFPA. This is just for accessibility and uh, maintainability as well. No? And lastly, let us discuss the maintenance, no? System maintenance. And maintenance is essential to ensure that the ventilation system performs as designed. Both components and the system as a whole must be kept clean and physically and operationally in proper condition. The maintenance personnel or facility personnel must inspect each part of the system and test its performance on a regular basis to catch and correct the first slip from normal operation. Repair and part replacement must occur as identified, and the maintenance will keep the system working properly that will reduce potential risk. And let us watch a video.
Commercial cooking operations, fixed fire suppression systems are the primary means of fire control, with portable fire extinguishers secondary. Fire detectors automatically activate the fixed fire suppression system and must be applied at a rating and location that permit them to respond promptly to any abnormal temperatures in the effluent from the cooking operation. Wet chemical systems or water mist suppression systems are the most common types used for fire suppression in industrial kitchens. Automatic sprinklers are also used as indicated by codes and standards. Large-scale food production lines frequently use carbon dioxide systems because carbon dioxide is a clean agent, which reduces the amount of cleanup and subsequent production downtime. These fire suppression systems require special training of kitchen workers so that they do not inadvertently exacerbate a fire event. Commercial cooking operation.
Okay, so knowledge check. So we can use our chat box to determine the right answer. What is the distinguishing feature of the recirculating exhaust system on this oven? It has a grease filtration device. The air is not discharged outside. The cooking effluent is captured in the hood or requires an equal supply of make-up air. So what is your answer, guys, for this type of cooking appliance? Typically, this kind of appliance do not discharge the air outside. No? Okay. In recirculating exhaust system for commercial cooking, effluent contaminants are removed so thoroughly that air can be returned to the kitchen space instead of having to be discharged outside. Okay. Which of the following which of the following is not one of the three primary fire concern with the exhaust hood? Okay, so basically we need to uh, determine, actually there are, we are looking for the wrong answer here, no? So hangs its beyond the cooking appliance, okay? So that is correct. A 6-inch overhang beyond the cooking appliance is not a primary concern. Our primary concern, extract enough grease to minimize potential fire, because if you will not extract, accumulation of that, as what we discussed earlier, it may cause fire. Contain fire within itself should one occur through our proper kitchen suppression system, and protect as well from the just combustible surface, which you can use your fire extinguishing system as a secondary means of uh, protection. Why it is important that appliances are positioned properly under the hood? So actually we are looking for three answers here, no? Select all, apply. Okay. What is your answer? So the three answers are A, B, C. Okay, correct, Mr. Brian. The fluent is captured and contained in the exhaust hood. If there's a fire, the flames will be contained in the hood for as long as possible. The suppression nozzle can apply chemical suppressant to extinguish the fire. Okay. I remember our brand is Ansol. No, when we were installed this kind of Ansol is very prominent brand. No, it is important that appliance be positioned properly under the hood for all of these three reasons. Okay, so now let us discuss the construction, alteration, and demolition. Okay. And Mr. Bruce, property risk engineer, explain his role as a consultant to prevent or reduce loss and manage risk on construction sites. Let us hear his advice.
For construction projects, our job starts with the initial conception of a project, working on the design and the planning of fire protection systems. And then during construction projects, we'll typically consult our customers on the biggest risk, which is hot work. An NFPA document covers that, which create a lot of fires. And things such as impairments of the fire system being what's being built, demolition of buildings, management of housekeeping and construction byproducts and the fire risk from those, and in some cases the contractor management as far as their safety practices on site.
Normal construction practice require considerable amount of combustible building material, forms, and scaffolding, which tend to accumulate in a congested area. Your trash and rubbish accumulation can also present a serious fire hazard on the construction, renovation, or demolition site. The daily cleanup of scrap lumber, cardboard, and other debris reduce the fire hazard, provide a safer working environment. So our general concern are as follows. Okay, and there are several other hazards to be mindful of this environment: asbestos, hot work, temporary heating, combustible liquid, and roofing in your construction site. So asbestos removal is a concern during some alteration and demolition project. Fire during asbestos removal operation presents several problems, and the potential for exposure of firefighter and construction worker to hazardous material outside the containment area impacts access and firefighting operation. The maintenance of the containment area may reduce the fire detection and will lengthen the amount of time before manual fire suppression by workers outside the containment area is possible. The widespread use of tarps and plastic film may also contribute to the fire load and fire spread. Hot work operation are also concerned with construction, alteration, and demolition process. Fire started by cutting, welding, plumbing, or other torch account for large percentage of construction fire. Therefore, this type of work must be carefully controlled and proper safeguard must be utilized. And most of you guys, I know, working in construction site, so you are very, very familiar and many incidents of fire occurred in these types of activities. Another concern is the temporary heating, especially during winter, or salamanders and other temporary heating device are normally responsible for numerous fire, resulted in millions of dollars in property loss. When temporary heating devices are used, they should be visually inspected every half an hour with your maybe fire watcher or a safety officer or inspector to ensure that those devices are not overheating and that combustible have not blown over. So that's one thing, no? One thing overheating is the issue of fire, and another is blown over material or fallen material near them. To attend the temporary heating device constantly, any object that is too hot to touch should be moved or the heating device should be relocated to much safer area. Combustible liquids. The flammable and combustible liquids present obvious fire protection problem. They should be stored and handled in an approved metal container or on their original shipping container. So you cannot just simply mix up these chemicals. The container should be tightly closed whenever it is not in use, and care must be taken to ensure that this liquid are not stored in exits or stairways that do not block access to firefighting equipment as well, apart from your potential hindrance to means of your egress. Potential blockage also to your firefighting equipment must also be taken into consideration. Roofing. So your roofing operation may also be concerned with construction, alteration, and demolition activity. Tar and asphalt kettles should be located outdoor and should not be on a roof. The proper distance from burner and flame and other ignition source are very crucial, as is the presence of fire extinguisher that are appropriately located and rated. During some roofing operation, especially torch applied roofing, it may also be necessary for a fire watcher to be located near to the roof. Because again, if you see this is an hot work, requires an hot work permit, that may also cause significant amount of fire. And an insulated fuel container should be kept at least 10 feet or 3 meters from the burner flame, so to avoid potential spread of fire, and should be secured to prevent tipping or falling over. Again, your an insulated fuel container should be secured, avoid tipping or falling over. Okay, to avoid the spillage of your roofing materials. Okay, the tar and asphalt spread. So again, Mr. Bruce demonstrate how a good housekeeping and awareness of the mixture of several combustible material in one area can be proactive measure against potential significant injury and potential property loss as well.
A story that comes to mind that happened several years ago was a construction project I was working on, and they had a mix of everything that could possibly go wrong. They were doing some hot work, okay, creating sparks, and they had poor housekeeping. They had dust and trash around. Those two in themselves may not have been a big issue, but the third part was it was a combustible wood frame high-rise building. Those three combined, any one of those things going wrong, any kind of small ignition would be very hard to put out. So housekeeping was the first part of that. Again, if you have a wood building and you're protecting the hot work area correctly, and you make a few mistakes on the hot work as far as where sparks go, you might dodge that bullet. But if the housekeeping is not good, you have what's called the continuity of combustibles and a high combustible loading, that fire could get out of control very, very quickly and create an event where the whole building could burn down. So this was a case where we had to have an emergency meeting with the contractors and just explain all the risks and what they were doing wrong and how they should do them a little better. A story that comes...
As a construction work is completed, the safety of the structure gradually increase. But further access to the structure is important throughout the construction process. And for this reason, installation of permanent stairway and stairway enclosure as well should be completed as soon as possible. The fire barrier and other essential features that can provide confinement of fire should be also installed as early as practical as possible. So also now let us discuss the safeguards. Safeguard is a water service at the site, should be adequate, not only for the final building construction, but also for fire protection during construction. In a multi-story structure, either temporary or permanent, the standpipe should be put into service as each floor is constructed to provide firefighting capability. In a building without automatic sprinkler or those in the installation of water tank and other fire protection equipment, must wait for the completion of the structural elements. This standpipe and hose system may provide the only reliable source of water for firefighting during the construction of the project. So let's check in with an activity using your fire protection handbook. Okay, I gave you an extra resources or material, relevant section of fire protection handbook earlier. No? So how far in advance should the fire department be notified before the start of an asbestos removal operation? So any idea? I've shared earlier with you those um, reading material. So if you read that, so basically you will know the right answer. So the answer is 24 hours at least. With the exception of minor asbestos removal, the fire department and any on-site emergency responder should be notified at least 24 hours before the start of an asbestos removal operation. So another knowledge check according to NFPA, what fire prevention action should be taken when using temporary heater fueled by an LPG gas or liquefied petroleum gas? So select all, apply. So basically there are three potential answer here according to your fire protection handbook. Answer guys? Okay. We discussed it earlier. Okay. Your LPG gas cylinder or any type of uh, cylinder containing combustible liquid must be securely fastened to prevent falling. So that's one thing. Another is we need to have a fire watcher, an officer, safety officer, to ensure that heating appliance is operating properly and there's no overheating or flying objects going near to that appliance that might cause fire. And another is follow, according to your handbook, the NFPA 58 heating operational requirements. So NFPA 58 is about liquefied petroleum gas code. It is recommended to secure the gas cylinder and visually inspect the appliance on a regular basis. Again, inspection is very important. One of the successful uh, uh, feature of to prevent, proactively prevent the potential fire incident. Okay. So another knowledge check. So there is a stack of wood in the construction site near where hot work operation are occurring. So now the question is, what is the required safe perimeter around hot work? So actually we discussed it earlier. Uh, if you will go to the fire protection handbook, it is on the page 11-51. No? So if you will go to 11-51 of the fire protection handbook, it mentioned that it needs about 35 feet or 11 meter. A safe perimeter around hot work needs to be at least 35 feet, 11 meter of any combustible material. Another knowledge check, which of this is true about plastic film use when asbestos removal or cleanup is a part of a building alteration or demolition project. So the answer from your fire protection handbook, you have to follow the NEPA 701 requirements. And what is NEPA 701? It is the standard methods of fire test for flame propagation of textile and the film. And lastly, we will discuss the heating system. Okay. Local fire department responded to an estimated average of 52,000 fire involves heating equipment each year in 2012 until 2016. And according to that incident, the home fire involving heating equipment, there's an estimated average of 490 civilian deaths and 1,400 civilian injuries each year from 2012 to 2016, as well as an estimated 1 billion direct property damage yearly. Okay, that's according to the research of Campbell in 2018. And there are a variety of heating appliances, such as those used for central heating or for room heating as well. Okay. There are also miscellaneous heat producing devices, include those used in restaurant, which are fired by various fuel and methods. And the section 10, chapter 2 of the Fire Protection Handbook review these appliances. Central heating appliances are divided into the four broad categories: boiler, central furnace, floor furnace, and wall furnaces. Room heating appliances fall into two general type, circulating and radiant. And the miscellaneous heat producing appliance include kerosene stove, heater, conversion range oil burner, salamander heater, restaurant cooking appliance, and various other devices as well. Central basic principle apply to all heating appliance: provision for adequate clearance to combustible material to avoid the fire, the bending products of combustion for sure, and adequate air for combustion and ventilation, proper burner control to safeguard against the hazard of the fuel, proper storage and handling of the fuel, and lastly, safeguard against fuel hazard. Okay. And according to the research, if the appliance is overheated, there is a severe and immediate hazard if the unit or its connector glows even in a very dull red. If appliance is overheated deliberately or through neglect, there is a severe and immediate hazard if the unit or its connector glows even in very dull red. Control is to simply turn off the valve and close door and air damper until things cool down. Shut-off valve or safety shut-off valve prevent abnormal discharge of fuel. They should be constructed so they cannot be readily restrained or blocked in an open position. Such valves should close automatically when de-energized. So damper, so where a hazard exists, protection can be provided by the installation of fire damper or smoke damper that are controlled by fire and smoke detector. So we call it motorized smoke damper, no? Interface with the fire alarm system. This damper can be of single blade or multi-blade or interlocking blade. No? So again, there is uh, uh, a material there. We call it the fusible link in order to that if met at a certain amount of heat, it will automatically shut off the damper to avoid the spread of fire or spread of smoke from one area to another. No, so it goes like this when it is at shut off phase. So fire damper can control the combustion by closing and reducing the air supply. And this is how it seems the motorized smoke damper looks like. No? But there should be an actuator somewhere. No? Bends are laboratory tested, factory built, used to bend fuel burning, heat producing appliance. Specific type of bend have specific use. Example, type B and type BW bends used to bend certain listed gas appliance. So let us go to another slide. Type L bends are used for bending oil burning appliance and other listed appliance. Special gas bends, pellet bends, and metal pipe bends are also used. And the plastic or PVC pipe may also use to bend certain appliance per manufacturer instruction. Remember that caution must be taken to meet bending capacity regulation. Installation of bend must be made in compliance with the terms of laboratory listing like UL or FM and manufacturer's instruction, making certain that the required clearance are maintained. Let us discuss the chimney. The purpose is to create draft to provide combustion air for the fuel and to remove products of combustion, the ashes like that, to remove products of combustion from the appliance and the building. For open fireplace or gas appliance, having a drop hood, chimney drop has very little influence on the combustion process. The chimney serves only as a conduit for carrying away the product of combustion. For forced drop or packaged boiler, the chimney might be under slight positive pressure and again serves only as a duct to carry away those combustion as a result of the combustion product. The technology of matching the size, height, and configuration of chimney to the temperature, type of quantity of fuel, and its correct capacity is very important for safety and proper function. And the those principles are covered in the ASHRAE handbook or ASHRAE standard. Here in Qatar, I think this is not really common. Normally in a snowing or winter countries, no, that their winter is below below 0 degree. No? For chimney serving oil, wood or coal appliance, a fire may occur as a result of reason ranging from operator error to improper installation and defective construction. The chimney need to be maintained properly and cleaned regularly to avoid the buildup of combustible soot. We call it combustible soot, SOOT, or creosote, 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 which is uh, a highly ignition hazard. So creosote is made of byproducts of fire, smoke, vapor, ash, okay, and ashes, okay. And chimney needs to be maintained properly to avoid the buildup of combustible soot, which we discussed. In short, ignition hazard and creosote, CREOSOT, is made of byproducts, fire, smoke, vapor, ash, or ashes, and tar as well. And let us discuss this heating system challenge. And there are 5 questions will help you continue to review the section 10 and the chapter 2 of your fire protection handbook. And each question offer a hint and giving you a general location of where the chapter 2 you might find the correct answer. Question will come quickly and we'll move on to the next as soon as the answer is chosen. After all 5 questions are answered, you will be provided with a feedback. Anyway, let us answer that. Which type of coal is subject to spontaneous heating, gives off considerable smoke and soot if improperly fired? So the answer here is, I just answered for you guys now. Bituminous coal. So the bituminous coal or C gives off considerable smoke and soot if improperly fired, can be subject to spontaneous heating under substoring conditions. So your answer here is C. Okay. So next, the installation of fuel oil storage tank inside the building is permitted by NEP 31 for all but which of the following? Well, all of the choices are permitted by NEPA 31, exception any floor up to 660 gallon or 2,005 liter capacity. So NEPA permits only installation of tank inside building on any floor up to 60 gallon or 227 liter capacity. So the answer here, except, is answer is B, no? Up to 660 gallon or 2,500 liter according again to your NFPA handbook. I already extracted you this relevant section in advance prior to this class. So, what is the minimum allowance for fire resistance rating for heating bed passing through multiple floor in a three-story building? The answer is vents pass through floor of building require the protection of vertical opening are enclosed within the wall having a fire resistance rating of no less than 1 hour. So the answer here is B. If the building is less than 4-story building. So here is 3-story. So we considered it less than 4-story. So no less than 1 hour is the answer. Again, according to your fire protection handbook, what is the minimum installation clearance for steam pipes carrying a steam at a pressure of 15 psi gauge but not over 500 psi gauge? And according to your fire protection handbook, table 10.2.4, the steam pipes carrying steam pressure over 15 psig but not over PSIG is 6 inches or 15 mm. So the answer here is C. Based on the table in fire protection handbook, which chimney is not appropriate for residential appliance with a flue gas temperature of 1,400 degree Fahrenheit. Again, you will use the table 10.2.1, 10.2.14 indicates that the unlisted metal, low heat type chimney is not appropriate for non-residential appliance with flue gas temperature of about 700 degree centigrade. So the answer here is D. Okay. And you see all, no? So we answer all those. We provided our answer. Okay. The answer here is D according to your fire protection handbook. Okay. So that's the module for tonight. So you have completed. And this building service and fire prevention practices provided us the opportunity to review the section 10 and 11 of your fire protection handbook. It helped us to define, we discussed earlier, the good housekeeping practice, the building care and maintenance of, and the role in fire prevention. We also become familiar with emergency standby power supply, heating system and appliance, and ventilation of commercial cooking operation. We also examine precautions to take in an environment where construction, alteration, and demolition operation occur. Now is your quiz. So I'll provide you now the link for your quiz. Just hold on. I'll just provide you the quiz. Okay. The web link for your quiz. Uh, Okay, now guys, I'll share in our chat box. And as soon as you get the link, please start answering. No? Okay? So I will also share now in our group. Okay, now guys, please start answering. So there are about how many questions? There are only 10 questions, so I'm giving you 15 answers to determine the right answer. Okay? So please start now. Okay, time is up. Uh, so what I do, I'm going to do is to share the instructor handouts. Okay. Okay. Now you got the instructor handouts and so the answer for the post training quiz. Okay. Okay. So these are the answer to your quiz. And let me highlight those who got the passing score of 70 percent. No? Okay. So almost, I think all of you pass. I think. Okay. So, so Mr. Brian, Naimat, Rahil, Omar, Mr. Gerard, who is firefighter FB. Okay. So, firefighter FB, who is this? So, Mr. Conran also, no? So, all of you almost got, no? Many got almost perfect score, no? But anyhow, which of the following provides standard for ventilation of fixed restaurant cooking equipment? The answer is B. NFPA 96, page 60 of your presentation handout. Number two, a foundation for good housekeeping is created by any facility implements which of these basic requirements. Page 25, correct material handling, cleanliness and order, and proper layout and equipment. Which type of coal gives off considerable smoke and salt if improperly fired? So the answer here is bituminous. Page 117 uh, of your presentation material. How far in advance should fire department be notified prior to the start of asbestos removal? At least 24 hours. We discuss in page 86 of your presentation material. The installation of fuel oil storage tank inside the building is not permitted on any floor up to 660-gallon capacity. Page 118. Which of the following provides specification for how a standby or emergency power needs to be built? Which one is required? We discuss NEPA 110, page 34 of your presentation handout. Why it is important to specially train kitchen worker where a fixed fire suppression system is primary means of fire control. Select or apply page 10-85 of your fire protection handbook. B, to avoid exacerbation of fire condition, and so workers understand when fire extinguisher are used. Number 8, to remain safe and effective, chimney and need periodic inspection and maintenance. These measures include examination and cleaning of the inner flue surface for the presence of combustible deposit or creosote, page 115. Central heating furnace can cause fire due to heat exchanger burnout. Which of these causes? D. Improper installation, servicing and maintenance, and also A. Lack of proper limit control. Fire Protection Handbook, okay, page 14-83. And lastly, the installation of which of these must be made in compliance with laboratory listing, manufacturer's instruction, bends. No, we discussed there are also four types, page 109 of your presentation handouts. So I think, I don't know, this one has 13 questions. Anyway, I'll give you it also. I have here two module quiz. I'll give both. Or I'll just give you this because there are 13 questions here. Commercial cooking, which of these is most serious fire interlock? We discussed in page 56, failure to permit the suppression system to operate. Foundation for good housekeeping is created by any facility implement which of these basic requirements: correct material handling and storage, cleanliness and order, and proper layout and equipment, page 25. And which section of the Fire Protection Handbook mentioned the need for emergency and standby power system? Healthcare occupancy, section 10 and 20. Okay, so that's the answer. No? So that's the conclusion of our presentation for today or tonight. And I will also share with you those answers. Mm, I don't know where this, wait. So I could be able to find now where is the that material. Anyway, I'll share to you. Okay. So I hope you learned something tonight, guys. And congratulations because all of you almost got past this module. And thank you. See you next Monday. Have a pleasant evening to everyone.